Breaking news. Putin trades Yak-130 jets for bread and butter. It's Tuesday, January 27, 2026, and the geopolitical map of East Africa just got a massive red ink stain right on it.
And before we really dig into the mechanics of what looks like a desperate pivot, we have a crucial message for you, especially if you're tracking the defense of Ukraine and the stability of Europe.
That's right. If you want to stay ahead of these kinds of developments and really understand the threats facing the free world, just take a second right now.
Yeah.
Subscribe to Defense Reports. It's your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports. I'm Alex.
And I'm Aria. Join us for the latest Deep Dive by Defense Report for a sharp, no-nonsense breakdown of what's happening in global defense, military tech, and, well, strategic developments. And today we are covering a story that feels like it's straight out of a Cold War spy novel, except it's happening right now, in the Horn of Africa.
Here's the reveal. Russia has just confirmed Ethiopia as the first foreign operator of the Orion E drone. On top of that, they've delivered advanced Yak-130 jets. This signals a huge strategic shift.
And not just for Ethiopia. This is about a Russia that is, frankly, scrambling to keep its economy afloat while its war machine just grinds on in Ukraine.
It's a fascinating and, a pretty disturbing development. We're going to look at this hidden economy that's popping up.
Where coffee beans and maybe even gold are being leveraged to get around Western financial sanctions.
And we have to unpack what we're calling the Orion paradox.
Yeah.
I mean, why on earth is Ethiopia spending hundreds of millions of dollars on a Russian drone that has struggled, and I mean really struggled, against Ukrainian air defenses?
Plus, we can't ignore the water wars, how these new Russian toys could, ignite the whole Nile conflict between Egypt and Ethiopia. There is a lot to get through here.
Okay, so let's get right into the thick of it. The scene is the Aviation Expo 2026 at the Bishop II Air Base.
Formerly known as Debrecen.
Right. And this is supposed to be just a standard 90th anniversary party for the Ethiopian Air Force. You know, the drill speeches, flyovers, dignitaries, and sunglasses. But then the hangar doors opened.
And the whole narrative changed. It stopped being a celebration and it started being a statement of intent. Observers on the ground, and this includes our sources, spotted the Russian-made Yak-130 combat training aircraft.
We need to be clear here. We're not talking about some glossy brochure or a scale model.
No. These were actual flyable airframes on the tarmac.
Specifically, we've got confirmation on tail numbers 2301, 2302, and the one sitting right there on static display, number 2303.
That's important. In the world of open source intelligence, consecutive tail numbers like that, it usually implies a batch delivery, not just a one-off prototype for a show.
Exactly. It implies a squadron is forming.
And look, the Yak-130 is officially called a trainer, but calling this jet just a trainer is, it's like calling a Swiss Army knife a toothpick.
Yeah, it can do that, but it does a whole lot more. I was reading up on the avionics suite for this thing, and it's actually pretty clever engineering. It has a programmable fly-by-wire system.
Which means what, exactly?
It means you can literally tune the flight controls to feel heavier or sluggish, to mimic a Su-30 or even a MiG-29. So your pilot isn't just learning to fly, they're building muscle memory for a heavier airframe without burning, $30,000 an hour in fuel?
That cost factor is huge. Russia is marketing this as the budget entry into fourth-gen warfare, but the Ethiopians didn't just buy it to teach cadets how to bank and roll. If you look closely at the photos from Bishop II, those wings have hardpoints.
9 hardpoints to be exact. This thing can carry 3 tons of combat load. We're talking R-73 air-to-air missiles, S-8 rocket pods.
And gun pods. It transforms from a classroom in the sky to a light attack aircraft very, very quickly.
And that's the tactical niche, right? If you're the Ethiopian Air Force and you're dealing with insurgents in Tigray or Amhara, do you really want to scramble a huge Su-27 flanker?
No, of course not. That's a massive twin-engine air superiority fighter. It's designed to kill other jets, it's expensive, it's maintenance-heavy, and it is complete overkill for hitting, a convoy of pickup trucks.
So the Yak-130 becomes the workhorse. It's agile, can fly low and slow, better for ground support, and if it gets shot at, it's a smaller target. It's the perfect counterinsurgency tool. But the Yak, that was just the appetizer at this air show.
Right. The main course was sitting on the runway, looking very ominous. We have confirmation of the first ever export of the Orion E mail drone.
Male standing for medium altitude long endurance. The tail number spotted was OV-1921.
This is a huge deal for the Russian defense industry. They have been trying to sell the Orion system for years. They want to compete with the American Reaper and the Chinese Wing Loom.
But until now, nobody outside of Russia had officially bought in. And the estimated contract value here is massive, somewhere between $300 and $500 million.
That is a huge injection of hard currency, or, value equivalent for the Russian defense sector. And you have to remember, that industry is straining under the weight of the war in Ukraine. They need liquidity. They need to keep production lines moving.
So securing a $500 million contract with Ethiopia, it's a lifeline.
It absolutely is.
And from a capability standpoint, this just changes the game for Ethiopia.
Yeah.
I mean, they've operated Turkish Bayraktar TB2s, Iranian drones. We saw those used in the Tigray War. But the Orion E is a different beast, isn't it?
It's a complete step up in weight class. The TB2 is a great tactical drone, but it has limits: payload, range. The Orion is designed as a strategic asset. It gives them 24-hour surveillance capability with a much heavier payload. It can loiter over a target for an entire day, just watching, waiting, and then striking.
It fills a huge gap for them in deep strike and persistent reconnaissance. But this brings us to the why. Why is Russia selling this now? And why is Ethiopia buying Russian? This gets us to what I've been calling the bread and butter trade. Because when you look at the economics, this doesn't look like a standard arms deal.
No, it's not a simple wire transfer. You have to frame this entirely in the context of the war in Ukraine. The sanctions regime, despite what some propaganda outlets might say, is biting. It has effectively severed Russia from Western financial markets.
They're cut off from the dollar, from the euro.
Completely. So Putin is forced to pivot. He has to go to the global south, to partners who have goods he needs, and frankly, who don't care about Brussels or Washington.
I was looking at the trade stats,
Yeah.
and the jump is just staggering. Russia-Ethiopia trade volume tripled from January to August 2025. Tripled. That doesn't happen with organic growth. That happens by government decree. And here's the kicker. Imports of Ethiopian coffee to Russia jumped 60% in 2024.
It sounds almost comical, doesn't it? Trading fighter jets for coffee, but it's a return to a very old form of economics. It's barter on a state level.
Russia sends grain, fertilizers, and high-tech weapons, things Ethiopia desperately needs. In return, Ethiopia sends agricultural goods, coffee, and, you have to assume, potentially mining rights.
Think about the accounting. You can't just swap a jet for a sack of beans. They're likely pegging these values to a neutral asset, maybe gold or the yuan, but settling the balance in physical goods.
It's 19th century mercantilism powered by 21st century desperation.
And they are building the financial infrastructure to support it because they have to. Ethiopia joined BRICS in 2024. That was a huge diplomatic win for Russia. It signals that Ethiopia is willing to play outside the Western rules-based order.
And structurally, they're bypassing the Western financial system entirely. Ethiopia is now using the SPFS.
Which is the system for transfer of financial messages.
Right. Think of it as Russia's own little version of SWIFT. It's clunky, it's isolated, but the U.S. Treasury can't see inside it. Ethiopia is also on the list of countries officially allowed to trade in rubles.
This is de-dollarization in action. It's a sanctions paradox. The West clamps down to isolate Russia, so Russia is forced to innovate its evasion network. They're building a parallel economy with anyone willing to play ball.
But there's a glaring issue here, and we have to address it. Let's call it the reputation gap, the Orion drone. I mean, let's be charitable. It hasn't exactly covered itself in glory over Ukraine.
That is putting it very mildly. In the skies over Ukraine, the Orion has suffered significant losses. It's slow, it has a large radar cross-section, and against a modern, layered air defense network like the one Ukraine has built with Western aid, it is, for all intents and purposes, a sitting duck.
I was looking at the visual confirmation logs. We've seen wreckage of these things all over the Donbas. So, if I'm Ethiopia and I'm shopping for a drone, why am I buying the one that keeps getting swatted out of the sky? Why drop $500 million in a system that looks like a failure on the nightly news?
Because context is everything in military procurement. The skies over Ukraine are some of the most contested in the world. You've got Patriots, IRIS-T, manpads everywhere, but the skies over the Horn of Africa, over Somalia.
It's a permissive environment.
Exactly. If you are flying against Al-Shabaab, they don't have Patriot batteries. They might have a rusty machine gun or an old Strela missile, but they don't have a radar network. In that environment, the Orion E works. It becomes a terrifying force multiplier.
You can just stay up there all day, unbothered, watching everything. It doesn't need to survive a NATO-grade air defense system.
It just needs to fly high enough to avoid small arms fire.
So Ethiopia is betting they won't be fighting a peer adversary anytime soon. And then there's the availability factor. If Ethiopia wants a US-made MQ-9 Reaper, they can't just write a check.
Oh no. That involves a mountain of paperwork, human rights vetting, Leahy laws. Congress has to say yes. It takes years. And even then, it comes with strings.
Right. Western aid is almost always tied to governance reforms, human rights records.
Which makes Russia's sales pitch very attractive. It's basically, we respect your sovereignty, translation. We don't care what you do with it. We don't care about your internal politics. Just pay us.
It's a tempting pitch for a leader who's facing internal insurgencies and doesn't want a lecture from the State Department.
It's the dictator's discount. The tech might not be the absolute best, but it arrives next week with no moralizing attached.
But looking at the map, this isn't just about fighting insurgents. This purchase shifts the balance of power, especially regarding the Nile and the Red Sea.
This is the most dangerous flashpoint in the entire region. You have to connect these weapons to the GERD, the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam.
The dam is Ethiopia's pride and joy, but it's Egypt's existential nightmare. Egypt relies on the Nile for everything: farming, drinking water. Ethiopia now controls the tap.
And for decades, the unspoken rule was that Egypt had the military upper hand. Egypt has F-16s, they have French Rafales, they could project power south if they felt threatened.
Precisely. The threat of Egyptian air superiority was a check on Ethiopian ambition. But now, Ethiopia is fielding Yak-130s for point defense, Orion S for 24-hour surveillance to spot incoming aircraft hundreds of miles out.
And there are credible reports, though unconfirmed, of Su-35s being part of the wider procurement plan.
That changes the calculus completely. If you are in Cairo looking at satellite photos of Bishop 2, you realize you can't just fly a strike mission anymore. Ethiopia can see you coming, and now they have the teeth to bite back.
It creates a sophisticated air shield around the dam. It forces Egypt to negotiate rather than threaten. It solidifies Ethiopia's position as the regional hegemon. But it gets even messier because it's not just Russia. At the same air show, there were UAE Air Force assets.
F-16s, Apaches. What is the UAE doing there? That's weird, right? The UAE is a U.S. partner, operating U.S. gear, sitting on the tarmac next to Russian drones.
It just shows you how complex this web of alliances is. The Gulf states and Russia are both vying for influence in the Horn. The UAE has been a major security broker in the region, but here they are, playing in the same sandbox as Moscow. It shows that Ethiopia is diversifying. They aren't just betting on Russia.
Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed is basically playing speed dating with global powers. You can give me the best guns for the best price.
And the best protection. And we can't forget the Red Sea access. Ethiopia is the most populous landlocked country in the world. They are desperate for a port. They've been making moves with that Somaliland deal.
Which enraged Somalia.
Right. And reports indicate Russia is training the Ethiopian Navy, which sounds strange for a landlocked country, but if Ethiopia secures a port in Somaliland, they need a navy to protect it.
And Russia wants naval logistics centers in the Red Sea. They've been trying to set up a base in Sudan for years with mixed results. If they help Ethiopia build a navy and secure a port, they likely get access to those facilities too.
It's a strategic exchange. Russia gets a warm water stopover for its fleet, and Ethiopia gets the muscle to claim its place on the Red Sea.
It really paints a picture of a region in flux. Ethiopia is muscling up, and Russia is all too happy to be the personal trainer.
As long as they get paid in coffee and geopolitical influence, it's a mutual survival pact. Russia needs the money and the friends to show the West it isn't isolated. Ethiopia needs the hardware to secure its borders and its dam without Western moralizing.
So let's bring this back to the big picture. What we are seeing is a Russia that's been battered by the war in Ukraine. The sanctions are hurting, despite all the bluster. They are hurting enough that Putin is selling advanced drone tech that his own troops probably wish they had more of on the Kharkiv front to Ethiopia.
That is the crucial takeaway. This isn't a sign of Russian strength, it's a sign of Russian adaptation to desperation. They are, in a way, cannibalizing their future capacity to survive the present. And that desperation is fueling an arms race in one of the most volatile regions on Earth.
Which leads us to a final provocative thought. If Russia is selling its frontline technology, like the Orion drone, to Africa while fighting a grinding war in Ukraine, does this signal confidence in their production lines?
Yeah.
Or does it signal a desperate need for cash that overrides their own military needs? Are they selling the family silver just to pay the rent?
That's the question to ponder. It suggests the economic war against Russia is working, maybe better than we see on the surface, but the side effect is a much more dangerous Africa.
You've been listening to Defense Report by Alex and Aria, where we analyze the latest in military strategy, global defense, and advanced weaponry. And before you go, a final reminder. Subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports. We'll catch you next time.